Oh, honey, sit a spell, and let me tell you something. That's been weighing on this old heart of mine for nigh on 80 years. I reckon if you're listening, you might just feel a piece of it too. Back in my day in that little speck of a town in Iowa where the cornfields stretched forever and the summers hummed with cicadas, life seemed as steady as the Mississippi flowing by. But one crisp fall morning in 1942, when I was just a slip of a girl knee-high to a grasshopper, everything I knew shattered like mama's best china hitting the kitchen floor. See my daddy tall as an oak with hands rough from farming and a laugh that could chase away any storm, he up and left for the war. World War II, they called it, but to us it was just the big ugly monster swallowing up our menfolk one by one. He kissed me on the forehead, promised he'd be back before the first snow, and waved from the back of that dusty old truck, hauling him off to who knows where. I remember standing there in the yard, my pigtails blowing in the wind, watching that truck disappear down the dirt road. Mama pulled me close, but her arms shook something fierce. We didn't know it then, but Daddy wasn't coming home, not ever. Weeks turned to months and the letters stopped. The government sent one back all official like saying he was missing in action somewhere over in Europe. Missing. That word hung over our house like a storm cloud you couldn't shoo away. Mama tried to keep things going. She took in washing and sewing for the neighbors just to put beans on the table, but I saw the light fade from her eyes bit by bit. It'd catch her staring out the window toward the road, hoping against hope for that truck to come rumbling back, but it never did. I remember standing there in the yard, my pigtails blowing in the wind, watching that truck disappear down the dirt road. Mama pulled me close, but her arm shook something fierce. We didn't know it then, but Daddy wasn't coming home. Not ever. Weeks turned to months, and the letters stopped. The government sent one back all official like saying he was missing in action somewhere over in Europe. Missing. That word hung over our house like a storm cloud you couldn't shoo away. Mama tried to keep things going. She took in washing and sewing for the neighbors just to put beans on the table, but I saw the light fade from her eyes bit by bit. It'd catch her staring out the window toward the road, hoping against hope for that truck to come rumbling back, but it never did. Now that's heartbreak for you. A little girl losing her hero before she even knew what losing meant. But oh, it gets thicker, honey. There was the secret too, something Mama never spoke of till years later when a bottle of homemade hooch loosened her tongue one lonely night. Turns out Daddy hadn't been all sunshine and straight arrows. Head had a wandering eye back before the war took him, and there was talk of another woman in the next town over. A gal from Cedar Rapids, they said, with city ways and a laugh like tinkling bells. A gal from Cedar Rapids, they said, with city ways and a laugh like tinkling bells. Mama found letters hid in his old work boot ones that burned her soul more than any battlefield could. She never told a soul, not even me, till I was grown, but keeping that locked inside, it ate at her like rust on the old barn roof. I was about 8 when the real hurt started peeling on. The war was raging fierce, and folks around us were getting the bad news left and right. Old Mr. Jenkins down the road lost his boy in the Pacific, blown to kingdom, come on some island I couldn't even spell. Mrs. Hargrove, she got a telegram about her husband going down with a ship off Normandy. Our town felt like it was bleeding out one family at a time, and us, we were just hanging on by a thread. Mama and me would walk to the general store every Saturday, eggs in a basket to trade for flour and sugar if we were lucky. The shelves were bare as a winter's field, rationing stamps in everyone's pocket, but never enough. You see, Mama slipped an extra smile to the grocer hoping for a bit of mercy, but pride kept her from begging outright. And even as the sun dipped low paint in the sky, all pink and gold like God's own watercolor, I was playing by the creek, skipping stones across the water, pretending they were magic spells to bring Daddy home. That's when I heard the whispers carrying on the breeze. Kids from school talking about my family, how Mama was raising me alone 'cause Daddy ran off with that other gal, not the war at all. Lies, they were pure ugly lies, but they stung like hornets. I ran home, tears streaming down my dirty cheeks, and burst through the door sobbing into Mama's apron. She held me tight, rocked me like I was still a baby, and whispered that some folks' tongues wag faster than their brains, but we were tougher than all that. Still, those words burrowed deep, left scars that time ain't fully healed. By the time I hit 10, the war was winding down, but the pain wasn't. Europe was free. Japan had surrendered, but our little world stayed broke. The farm was fallow weeds choking out the rows 'cause Mama couldn't tend it alone. Neighbors helped some bringing over a hog now and then or a quilt piece from scraps, but charity has a way of tasting bitter after a spell. I started helping out more milk in the one cow we had left and gathering eggs from the hens that stuck around. My hands got calloused early, learned the ache of labor young. But inside, oh honey, the heartbreak was a constant companion. Nights a lie awake, listening to Mama cry soft in the next room, her pillow soaking up the grief she wouldn't let the daylight see. And then came the peak of it all, the moment that near broke me clean in two. It was a sweltering July day in 1945, flags waving everywhere for VJ Day, victory bells ringing from the church steeple. The whole town gathered for a picnic potluck spread under the big oak by the schoolhouse. Laughter floated on the air, kids running wild with sparklers even after dark. I was there with Mama wearing my Sunday dress patched at the knees, feeling a flicker of hope for the first time in ages. Maybe now with the war over Daddy would come marching home tall and strong like in the newsreels. But as the crowd sang God Bless America, a stranger pulled Mama aside, a man in a rumpled suit from the War Department, his hat in hand, eyes downcast. I watched from afar, seeing her face drain of color crumple like wet paper. He told her the truth. They found Daddy's dog tags in a foxhole near Bastogne, shattered and bloodstained. Nobody, just that cold metal proof, had fought brave to the end, but didn't make it back. Mama nodded numb, thanked him quiet, and turned away. I ran to her, then buried my face in her skirt, but she just stood there staring at nothing. That night back home, she sat at the kitchen table sipping black coffee till dawn, finally spilling the secret about Daddy's letters. Hal had written to that other woman promising a life away from the farm from us, saying he felt trapped like a coon in a trap. Mama forgave him in her way, said love ain't always tidy, but losing him to the war on top of that betrayal, it was more than any heart should bear. Oh, those early days, honey, they shine in my memory like the first light creeping over the prairie, even with the shadows of war lining the edges. Before Daddy shipped out, life was a gentle rhythm in our little Iowa town of Willow Creek, population barely scratching 200 souls, all tucked between rolling hills and that endless river. We lived in a white clapboard house handed down from Grandpappy, creaking floors, and a wraparound porch where I'd swing for hours watching fireflies dance come summer evenings. Mama was the heart of it all. Her hands always flour dusted from baking apple pies with the last of the harvest fruit, or knitting scarves for the Red Cross to send overseas. She had this way of humming hymns while she worked, voice soft as a lullaby, making the hard days feel softer. Me, I was Emma back then, little Emmy, to most a tomboy with scraped knees and a wild mane of auburn hair that Mama wrestled into braids every Sunday for church. School was a one-room deal house down the road, Miss Harlan president over us, kids from first grade to eighth, her chalkboard squeaking lessons on history and arithmetic. I loved reading best, though, devouring stories about pioneers and far-off lands from the books Mama borrowed from the library wagon that rolled through once a month. We'd recite the Pledge of Allegiance every morning, hand on heart, facing that flag, snapping in the breeze, feeling like America was the strongest, biggest thing under the sun. In the breeze, feeling like America was the strongest, biggest thing under the sun. Little did I know how that pride would get tested soon enough. Summers were pure magic, running barefoot through the alfalfa fields, chasing after my best pal, Tommy Jenkins, that freckle-faced rascal who lived 2 farms over. Wet Bill forts from hay bales, pretending we were soldiers holding off the enemy with sticks for rifles. Tommy talked big about joining up when we grew up saving the day like the fellas in the comic strips. I laughed, called him a dreamer, but deep down I believed it too. Our mamas would call us in for lunch plates heaped with cornbread and fresh milk from the cows still warm. Even as the whole town gathered for barn dances, fiddles, sawing old-timey tunes while folks two-stepped under lantern light, I'd sit on a bale watching Mama and Daddy sway close, her head on his shoulder, his arm round her waist, the world feeling safe and whole. But even in those golden times, there were hints of the hurt coming, like storm clouds gathering far off. Daddy would sit on the porch after supper staring at the horizon, his pipe glowing in the twilight, talking quiet about the farm struggling with the dust bowl, leaving the soil bone dry year after year. He'd say things like, we gotta hold tight. Emmy times are changing, but America's built on folks like us who stick it out. Mama would shush him, say enough of that gloom, now past the lemonade, but I saw the worry lines etched deeper on his face. Still, we had our rituals, the county fair in August with its cotton candy and blue ribbon pigs where I'd win a ribbon for my lemon bars pieced together from Mama's recipe. Folks would clap me on the back, say you're a natural Emmy just like your ma, and I'd be feeling 10 feet tall. Word count ticking along, but let's pause here at that first peak bout, 1,500 words in darling cause. Those fair days, they were a high point, a bubble of joy before the needle pricked it. One year, 1941, the summer before the world went mad, I entered the pie contest, my entry a cherry cobbler baked in our wood stove, the kitchen steaming like a sauna. The judges, that old codger Meyer Wilkins and his wife, oohed and I had, declaring it the best they tasted in years. I got a blue ribbon and a whole dollar prize, which I clutched like buried treasure. Running to show Daddy, he scooped me up, spun me around his laugh, booming, "That's my girl Emmy. You make this old world sweeter." Mama watched smiling, but her eyes held a shadow, knowing the war drums were beating louder in Europe and Pearl Harbor was just months away. That ribbon hung on my wall for years, a scrap of hope stitched in satin. This fall road in school started up again, and with it the first real whispers of war. Radio broadcasts crackled from the parlor set, President Roosevelt talking stern about the Axis powers and how we had to gear up. Boys my brother's age, though I ain't got none, just cousins, started drilling in the fields, marching with broomsticks, pretending for the army. I tagged along, sometimes feeling grown up in my overalls, learning to salute proper. Homefront chores piled on to Mama teaching me to save tinfoil from gum wrappers and grow victory gardens out back, our rows of tomatoes and beans, a small stand against the shortages. We'd listen to the newsreels at the picture show in town, the Orpheum with its velvet seats and popcorn smell, seeing tanks rolling through France and planes dogfighting in the skies. It all felt like adventure then, not the nightmare it had become. Christmas that year, 1941, was our last pure one. Daddy strung lights on the spruce we cut from the woods, twinkling like stars against the snow. We baked gingerbread men, frosted them with icing from powdered sugar, rationed tight. Under the tree, gifts wrapped in newspaper, a hand-carved doll for me from Daddy, his knife skills turning wood to magic, and a new apron for Mama sewed by his steady hands. We sang carols round the piano, Mama playing off key, but joyful Daddy harmonizing deep. I wished on the first star for peace, hoping the world would listen. But by New Year's, the papers were full of enlistments and our town hall buzzed with send-offs. Daddy's number came up in the draft lottery, and though he grumbled about leaving the farm, he signed on patriotic to the core. Those months led into his departure, were bittersweet school friends, chattering about sweethearts, writing letters to soldiers overseas. I scribbled notes to Daddy, 2 drawing pictures of the farm, promising to tend the chores. Tommy and me, we made a pact under the old willow tree by the creek, swearing we'd watch out for each other's folks no matter what. He gave me a lucky rabbit's foot, tied with string, said it keep the bad away. I tucked it in my pocket, felt his soft fur like a talisman. Mornings it'd help Mama with breakfast flapjacks, flip-tied Daddy, eating hearty, saying gotta fuel up for whatever comes. Evenings we'd play checkers on the kitchen table, him letting me win sometimes, his eyes twinkling, know you're getting sharp, Emmy. But as spring bloomed 1942, the air grew heavy with goodbyes. Neighbors packing lunches for the train station, picnics turned solemn with prayers for safe returns. Our church overflowed Sundays, Reverend Hayes preaching on sacrifice and the good fight. I wore my pride like a badge pinning a gold star in the window for Daddy waiting to earn it proper. The day he left, as I told you earlier, that truck kicking up dust that marked the end of easy times. Mama and me waved till our arms ached, then trudged home to a quieter house. School went on, but the playground games turned to war, taught kids mimicking dive bombers with whooping yells. I buried myself in books, escaping to Laura Ingalls' world where Pa always came home from the fields. Summer 1942 brought heat waves that wilted the crops and my spirits. We'd fan ourselves on the porch, sipping well water, Mama telling stories of her girlhood to fill the silence. Daddy left. She spoke of meeting him at a harvest dance, how his blue eyes caught hers across the barn floor. I hung on every word, painting pictures in my head of their young love, simple and true. But ration books rule now, gas scarce, so no drives to town, just walks with baskets. It trades stamps with friends for extras, maybe a bit of chocolate or silk for stockings, though we saved those for special. Tommy helped on the farm, hauling water, chopping wood, his chatter a balm against the loneliness. We'd race to the creek, cool off in the shallows, splashing, till supper time, forgetting the ache for a spell. By fall, it'd grown an inch or 2 calluses on my palms from hoeing weeds. School lessons included war maps, tracking battles in the Atlantic where U-boats prowled like wolves. Miss Harlan read letters from alumni fighting overseas, voices crackling with bravery. I wrote back to one cousin overseas asking about the food over there. He replied with jokes about spam and hardtack, making us laugh through tears. Home, the icebox hummed empty, more often meals stretched with cornmeal mush and garden greens. Mama sewed uniforms for the factory in Des Moines, her machine whirring late nights. It men by lamplight learning stitches that served me long after. Another peak hits here around 2,500 words, darling, a memory that still warms this wrinkled heart. It was harvest time 1942 before the worst shortages bit deep. The community barn raising for the Jensens, whose pie was off in North Africa. Folks came from miles around, hammers, nailing beams, laughter mixing with the scent of fresh cut lumber. I carried nails in my apron, feeling useful Tommy hoisting buckets of water for the men. By noon, the frame stood tall, and we broke for a feast quilt spread under the oaks laden with fried chicken, potato salad, and Mama's famous rhubarb pie. Speeches flew by pulling together, sticking by our boys, and as the sun set, we danced again, fiddles calling squares. Mama even smiled real, took a turn with Uncle Ray, Daddy's brother, who'd stayed to help. I twirled with Tommy dizzy with joy, thinking maybe we could hold the darkness at bay if we just kept moving, kept loving. But those joys, they were fragile as frost on a window pane. Winter set and harsh snow peeling drift that buried the fences. Coal was rationed, so wet huddled by the stove, burning corn cobs to stay warm. Christmas came subdued, no new lights, just candles flickering on the tree. I got a book of poems from Mama, her fingers ink stained from writing letters to the government asking for news of Daddy. The gold star went up in our window, joining dozens in town, a constellation of loss. School closed early for lack of heat, kids home studying by correspondence. It bundled up, trekked to Tommy's for lessons, sharing what little we had, his Malbec and biscuits to divide. Spring 1943 thawed the ground, but not our hopes. News from Europe was grim allies pushing, but casualties mounting. Mama's face aged overnight letters from the front, sparse and censored. I turned 9 that April, a quiet birthday with a cake of cornbread topped with wild berries. Gifts were promises Daddy would be proud reading in my journal. Tommy gave me a pressed 4-leaf clover set for luck against the war. We walked the fields planting seed together, talking dreams of after, when the boys came home and life bloomed full again. But inside the worry gnawed, what if after never came? Those early years, they shaped me, honey, taught me the taste of sweet and the bite of bitter side by side. Simple things, a hot meal, a friend's laugh, they anchored us when the world spun wild. As I look back now from this rocker on my own porch, I see how that resilience started young, woven into the fabric of small town life. But oh, the struggles, they loomed larger soon enough, waiting to test every bit of it. Oh, honey, if those early days were the calm before the storm, the struggles that followed, they were the full force of it. Raging wild, tearing through our lives like a twister touching down uninvited. By 1944, the war had sunk its claws deep into Willow Creek, and us along with it. Mama's letters to the War Department went unanswered for months, leaving us in a limbo worse than knowing the worst. I was pushing 11 now, shoulders broadened from chores, but my heart still that of a little girl clinging to fairy tales. School carried on, but the joy had leaked out, replaced by air raid drills where wet huddle under desks, pretending bombs fell on Iowa fields. Miss Harlan read us stories of Rosie the Riveter, strong women building planes, but it felt far off like Hollywood dreams, not our mud-caked reality. Money got tighter than a miser's fist, the farm producing less, each season drought and neglect taking their toll. Mama sold off the last of Grandpappy's tools at the auction house in town, watching strangers haul them away, her eyes misty. We traded eggs for cloth, but the hens thinned out one by one till the coop echoed empty. It walked miles to the next farm over hoping for work weeding or picking beans for a nickel a basket. My feet blistered in hand-me-downs, too small, but pride kept me going, no time for complaining. Evan and Wed sit by the radio tuning into Fibber McGee and Molly for laughs, but the news breaks they'd cut in sharp reports of D-Day beaches stained red with our boys' blood. Each one hit like a slap, wondering if Daddy was out there in that mess. Then came the first real peak of heartbreak in this dark stretch around 3,500 words in Darlin'. A secret that ripped the scab clean off. It was late summer 1944, the air thick with harvest dust and the smell of burning leaves. A letter arrived, not from the government, but from that gal in Cedar Rapids, the one Daddy's old notes had whispered about. She had heard through the grapevine about his missing status and wrote to Mama offering condolences, and a photo she had kept of him smiling arm around her waist at some county fair years back. Mama read it alone, first crumpling the page till her knuckles whitened, then called me and sat me down with a cup of weak tea. "Emmy," she said, voice cracking like dry earth, "your daddy, he loved us fierce, but he had a weakness, a fool heart that wandered when things got tough on the farm." That photo had showed him younger, happier, maybe dreaming of a different life away from the plow and the bills piling up. She admitted she'd known about the affair, buried the hurt to keep our family whole, but the war exposing it all. It felt like betrayal twice over from the grave. I stared at that picture, traces of the man I remembered in his eyes, but the stranger beside him. She twisted the knife. "Why didn't you tell me sooner, Mama?" I asked, tears hot on my cheeks. She pulled me close, said some secrets, protect till they can't no more. And now with him gone, we gotta forgive to heal. But forgiving ain't forgetting, honey, and that revelation hung heavy changing how I saw our home, the porch swing where that courted now tainted. Town gossip flared up again, whispers at church potlucks about mama being twice jilted, once by love, once by war. Folks meant well with their pies and prayers, but pity stings worse than spite sometimes. I lashed out at Tommy one day, accusing him of spreading tales. He just shook his head, said, Emmy wars make monsters of rumors, but you're still my best pal. Autumn deepened the blows, Europe grinding through hedgerows, and our supplies dwindling to nothing. Rationing hit hard. No new shoes for me, toes poking through holes and gas, so scarce the school bus quit running. Wet hiking snow flurries, breath fogging the air, studying by lantern light when the power lines iced over. Mama took a job at the local cannery packing peas for the troops, her back aching from the line work home, only to collapse in the rocker. Ate cooked supper simple as it was, so belly and potatoes if we had him listening to her cough from the factory dust. Christmas loomed sparse, no tree, just a branch from the yard strung with paper chains. I made ornaments from foil scraps shining dim in the candle glow, wishing for miracles that never came. In 1945, the end of the war brought no real relief, just a hollow echo. VE Day parties fizzled, quick telegrams pouring in with losses that gutted the town. Old Mr. Jenkins passed from grief his heart giving out after burying his second boy. Our gold star stayed up permanent now, a badge of honor and sorrow. Mama and me, we leaned on each other thicker than thieves, her teaching me to mend socks and preserve what little we grew. But inside the secret festered, I dreamed of Daddy, sometimes waking sweaty, wondering if he'd chosen that other life over us, even in death. Resilience started showing, though, in small ways, me writing letters to soldiers through school pens, to lonely GIs sharing bits of Iowa to lift their spirits. One wrote back, a fella from Texas calling me Lil Sis for the stories. Thank you's warming my soul. Peace came official in September, Japan surrendering, but our struggles, they morphed, not ended. Folks came home changed, shell-shocked or missing limbs. The farm boys turned veterans, scratching for work, and the world shifted. Tommy's pa returned from the Pacific, leg gone below the knee, hobbling on a crutch, his jokes forced now. We helped where we could, sharing meals when the larder allowed, but inflation bit hard, prices climbing faster than corn after rain. Mama lost her cannery job, women pushed out for the men returning, and we scraped by on her washing alone. I quit school at 14 to work full-time waitressing at the diner in town, slinging coffee to truckers passing through on Route 30. Tips were slim dimes mostly, but I saved everyone dreaming of high school someday, maybe even a teacher's college. Another peak crashes in here, about 4,000 words, the kind that'll have y'all reaching for tissues. Winter 1946, a blizzard buried us, deep snowdrifts blocking the roads for weeks. Coal run out, and the house turned frigid. We huddled under quilts, burning chair legs for warmth. Mama took ill pneumonia settling in her chest, cough racking her frame. Doc Billings came on snowshoes, charged a pretty penny we didn't have for medicine. I shoveled the path to town, begged the pharmacist for credit on sulfur pills, promising to pay when spring wages came. Nights had spooned broth into her mouth, praying silent, her fever burning hot. Delirious, she murmured Daddy's name mixed with that gal's, calling him back from the brink. On the third day, as the storm howled, she rallied enough to whisper, Emmy, you're the strong one, now don't let this farm or us go under. I cried then, silent tears freezing on my lashes, but her words lit a fire, kept me going, till the skies cleared and she mended slow. Spring thawed the ice, but unearthed debts we couldn't outrun. The bank called in the mortgage notes piled from war years, no crop to sell meant foreclosure looming. Neighbors rallied, a collection jar at church raised enough for a month's grace, but it was Band-Aids on a bleeding wound. I worked double shifts, feet swollen in my shoes, serving hash to salesmen, talking big about the boom coming. Tommy joined the mill in Des Moines, hauling lumber, his letters home full of city lights, but missing the creek and our forts. He courted a girl there mentioned in passing, but I felt the pull of change leaving me behind. Mama sewed dresses for extra cash, her needle flying, but rheumatism crept and stiffened in her fingers. The real meat of the struggles kicked up in the 50s as I grew into womanhood. Korea flared hot after WWI's ashes, pulling more boys away, including my cousin Billy, drafted fresh from high school. Letters from the front spoke of hills and foxholes, echo on Daddy's fate. I married young at 19 to Hank, a steady fella from town, a mechanic with grease under his nails and a kind smile. We set up in a rented trailer on the edge of Willow Creek, hoping for our own piece of the American dream. But secrets have a way of following. Hank knew bits about my daddy from town talk, never pride, but it shadowed our early days. Then came our boy Little Jimmy, born in 1951, squalling loud as a freight train, filling our home with giggles. Life hummed steady for the spell Hank fixing cars at the garage me home with Jimmy baking pies like Mama taught. But Vietnam loomed on the horizon by the 60s TV news showing jungles and protests tearing the country apart. Jimmy grew tall, quick a dreamer like Tommy, joining the peace marches in college, talking civil rights and end the war. I worried nights watching Walter Cronkite report body counts, fearing history repeating. Hank shook his head, said boys gotta serve, but deep down we both dreaded the draft lottery, spinning names like a cruel game. Beat number 3 hits hard, around 400 to 500 words. The tragedy that near shattered me whole. 1968, the Tet offensive raged. Jimmy turned 18 that summer, lottery number low enough to call him up. He hugged me tight, said, "Ma, it'll be careful like Pa in the war," but his eyes held fear. Boot camp letters came, regular training stories making light, but then silence after shipping out to Nam. Months dragged, TV flickered with horrors. My Lai and Kaisan. One even Hank burst through the door, face ashen telegram in hand. "Regret to inform your son James killed in action." Quang Tri Province. The world tilted, I crumpled to the floor, wailing a sound not human. Hank held me, rocking silent tears, streaming his mechanic's hands trembling. Jimmy buried in the town cemetery, under a white stone next to Daddy, the war's linking generations in grief. I visited daily, living wildflowers, whispering stories, head of love. The secret about Daddy's affair, it resurfaced in my dreams, mixing with Jimmy's loss, wondering if weakness ran in our blood. Hank retreated into work, bottles of beer peeling up, his laugh fading. Resilience flickered, though I joined the Gold Star Mothers sewing quilts for the wounded, sharing our pains over coffee. Town rallied again, potlucks and prayers, but the hole in our home gaped wide. The 70s brought recession like a gut punch, oil embargo, gas lines, stretching blocks. Hank's garage folded, customers driving, less affording fixes. We lost the trailer foreclosed like Mama's farm, scrabbling into a small apartment above the hardware store. Bills mounted, doctor visits for Hank's coffin, fits from the fumes. I took in laundry again, fingers raw from scrubbing stains that wouldn't lift. Secrets piled, too. Hank confessed one night after too many drinks, had strayed during a business trip to Des Moines, feeling lost after Jimmy. It echoed Daddy's betrayal, cut deep, but I forgave quiet, said we all stumbled, just gotta rise. Still trust frayed like old rope. Another peak rose in about 5,000 words, the financial ruin that tested every ounce of grit. 1974, inflation sky high, bread jumping to $1 a loaf, our savings evaporating. The bank seized what little we had left, auctioning family heirlooms. Mama's quilt, Daddy's watch gone to strangers. Homeless for a spell, we couch surfed with Ken on Lula, taking us in her cramped house. I worked 2 jobs, diner by day, cleaning offices. Nights, feet aching, back breaking. Hank found spot labor at the factory, assembling parts, his pride bruised. But he nodded, said, whatever keeps the roof over us. Nights we'd lie awake, Jimmy's photo on the wall, watching, overhearing the city hum outside, our small town dreams dashed. The 80s Reagan talked recovery, but for us it crawled slow. Plant closed and swept the Midwest factories, shuddering like dominoes. Hank laid off again, we moved back to Willow Creek caretaking, the old family place for a cousin abroad. Rent-free but sparse, no heat, some winters burning scrap wood. My body wore down, arthritis settling in joints, creaking like the porch swing. Secrets healed, some Hank and me finding peace and forgiveness, talking open about the pains. But tragedies lingered, Jimmy's birthday wed light. A candle share memories, his laugh echoing in our heads. One more peak, darling, around 5,500 words, a resilient spark amid the dark. 1982, a bad harvest flooded the fields, crops ruined, debt swelling again. Foreclosure loomed second time round. I rallied the town, started a co-op, women baking, selling at markets, pies, cookies, using old recipes. Folks bought not just for sweets, but support lines forming for Mama's apple pie. My twist was cinnamon extra. It saved the farm, pulled us from the brink, community strong like in the war days. Hank fixed tractors on the side, his hands steady again, pride returning slow. The 90s eased to some economy booming, but our scars stayed etched deep. Jimmy would have been grown grandkids maybe, but fate took that path. Hank passed in 95, heart attack, quiet in his sleep, leaving me alone in the house, echoes bouncing off walls. I tended the garden, grew flowers, sold them at the fair, memories of my ribbon days. Secrets all out now, told to grandnieces visiting wide-eyed. Struggles, they forged me honey from girl to granny steel, wrapped in soft. But oh, the layers kept coming into the new millennium recession. 2008, hitting like 74, but global. Banks failing, jobs vanishing, our savings dipped again, though I was retired on Social Security, thin as broth. Nephews lost homes, foreclosed, echoes of our past. I volunteered at the food pantry, ladling soup to the down and out, seeing young faces like mine in the war years. Resilience shone brightest, then showering stories, lifting spirits, saying we've been through worse and come out the other side. Final peek in this long hall, around 6,000 words, a secret revealed late that mended a fracture. 2010, clearing the attic for a yard sale, I found a bundle of letters, daddy's from the front ones Mama had never shared. He wrote of regret loving that gal, but choosing us, staying true, in the end fighting for home. No betrayal, just youthful folly, the war stripping illusions. I wept red and M, felt peace wash over, forgiven full. Shared with the family at a reunion under the old oak tears and hugs mixing with laughter. Those struggles, honey, they piled high tragedies, secrets, recessions, wars, stealing chunks of my heart. But each one built the walls higher too. From WWII shadow to Vietnam's jungles to economic busts, America tested us, but we bent not broke. Now as I rock here, the pains fade to wisdom, ready for the resolution that pulled me through. Oh, honey, after all those storms tearing at the seams, the resolution, it came quiet like the sun breaking through after a hard rain, washing the fields clean and living the air fresh with promise. By the late 2000s, I'd weathered more losses than most, but something shifted inside me, a steady flame Mama had kindled long ago, flickering back to life. It started small in 2012 when Willow Creek put on its centennial celebration, a big to-do with parades and potlucks, echoing the barn-raising days of my youth. I was pushing 80, then joints aching, but I volunteered to share stories at the town hall, hoping to honor the old-timers like Daddy and Jimmy who'd given all. Folks gathered round chairs, scraped on the floor, listening as I spun yarns about victory gardens and gold stars, not for pity, but to remind them resilience runs deep in our blood. The crowd nodded, eyes missed, and one young mama with a toddler on her knee thanked me after, said, "Your words give me hope for these tough times." That sparked it, darling, a calling to pass the torch. I started a little group, Gold Star Echoes, meeting weekly at the library, sharing letters and photos from the wars, keeping memories alive for the grandkids who barely knew the stories. No fancy setups, just coffee and styrofoam cups and chairs in a circle, but it mended pieces of me here and others' pains mirror my own. Hank with a grin called it my second wind, and Jimmy Head have joined in strumming his old guitar if Head made it home. Secrets that once festered like Daddy's letters, they turned to teaching tools, helping folks forgive their own ghosts. Word spread slow. The local paper ran a piece on me, calling me Willow Creek storytelling granny. TV came next, a Des Moines station sending a crew for a segment on small town survivors. I sat in my rocker porch swing, creaking under me, spilling about the heartbreaks, but focusing on the rises, how community pulled us through rationing and recessions alike. Viewers wrote in letters, flooding the mailbox tales of their kin mirroring mine. A vet from Korea, a single mile from the 80s bust. One envelope stood out, a yellowed photo inside of a soldier looking just like my cousin Billy, smiling from 1952. Turned out the sender was his half-sister searching for roots, wed lost touch in the moves and shuffles of life. We met at the diner, that same spotted waitress decades back, hugs tight as family should be secrets, swapped and healed in the telling. That reunion, it built momentum, honey, led to more connections, a family tree branching out I never knew existed. Turns out Daddy's wondering I had born a child, the gal from Cedar Rapids, raising her alone after the war news hit. She was grown now in her 70s, driving down from the city with stories of her own, a life of quiet strength, echoing Mama's. We sat on the porch, sipping iced tea, her voice trembling as she said, "I always wondered about you, Emmy, the farm girl from his letters." No blame, just understanding, forgiveness flowing easy after all those years. I showed her the bundle of Daddy's frontline notes, the regrets and love's tangle, but true she wept soft, saying, "He spoke of you both like treasures." That day we pieced the puzzle, not perfect, but whole enough to let go of the shame. As the 2010s rolled on, resolutions layered like quilt patches, each one warming the cold spots. Economy picked up some jobs, trickling back to town, young folks staying put instead of fleeing to the coasts. I mentored at the high school, read into kids about history, not as dusty facts, but living breaths, pulling them into the creeks and battlefields. One boy, Jamal, quiet with dreams in his eyes, wrote a paper on my life, called it American Grit. The teacher read it aloud, class, clapping me blushing like a schoolgirl. It planted seeds too. He started a club preserving oral histories, recording elders like me, tapping stories for YouTube simple clips, but viral in their true sharing the USA spirit that bent but never broke through wars and woes. Another thread wove in 2015 when the VA honored Gold Star families with a quilt project, volunteers stitching panels from our tales. Mine featured cornfields and dog tags. Jimmy's panel, a peace sign from his marches, stitched careful. Hanging in the county courthouse, it drew visitors, tourists, snapping pics, locals lingering to remember. I spoke at the unveil, a crowd bigger than the Fair Days, voice steady, though knees wobbled, saying heartbreaks build bridges if we let them connect us. That event, it piqued the emotions, honey, around 8,000 words in a moment it'll carry forever. Midway through my talk, a stranger approached Mike and hand eyes brimming. He was a NAM vet. Jimmy's buddy from basic training thought lost to time. Turns out head carried guilt for years, surviving when Jimmy didn't, but hearing my words, it freed him to forgive himself. We embraced there in the hall. Cheers erupting, a reunion born from shared scars, turning tragedy to triumph. From there, hope bloomed fuller. I traveled light, a niece driving me to reunions, veterans halls, where I'd chat with the young ones fresh from deployments. They called me Nana M. I listened to my Vietnam echoes, seeing parallels in their deserts and drones. One gal from Afghanistan shared her loss as a brother gone too soon. We swapped addresses, promising letters like the old days. Back home, the garden thrived again, flowers and veggies for the pantry helping feed the needy. No one should go hungry, not on my watch. Church got lively, 2 Sundays full of testimonies, folks inspired by the group shattering, their recessions and rises, building a web of support thicker than blood. By 2020, the world threw curveballs again, pandemic shutting doors, but resolutions adapted virtual calls, linking us across miles. I learned Zoom from a grandnephew face glowing on screen with kin far flung, telling tales to grandbabies who'd never met the farm. It kept the secrets flowing, not hidden, but healed past as wisdom, not wounds. Health held steady enough, doc, saying my heart's strong from all the loving given out. Mornings it walked the creek path where Tommy and I played stone, skipping, still whispering thanks to the water for carrying me through. Those acts of strength, quiet as they were, they rebuilt the foundation wars and woes had cracked. Family grew too, not just blood, but chosen the gal from Cedar Rapids, visiting regular, her stories filling gaps like missing puzzle bits. We baked pies together, laughing over spills, recipes tweaked for modern tastes, but rooted deep. Resilience, it wasn't loud fanfares, but steady steps forward, one forgiveness, one share at a time, turning the grandma's tale from sorrow to solace. And honey, as that chapter closes, the reflections waiting just ahead, glowing with the light of lives mended and lessons learned. Oh, honey, now that the dust is settled on all those twists and turns, let me catch my breath in this rocker with the wind chimes. Tinkling soft outside, I find myself reflecting on the long road from that little girl in pigtails to this granny with more stories than stars in the Iowa sky. Life, it ain't no straight shot down a county road. It's full of potholes and detours. But looking back, I see how every bump built something stronger, a heart that's known the deep blues, but always hunted for the dawn. You see, darling, through the wars that took my daddy and my boy, the secrets that hid like shadows in the barn, the recessions that left us scraping pennies from the dirt, I've learned the truest truth. America ain't just flags and fireworks. It's folks like us, small town souls, rolling up sleeves and holding each other close when the nights get long. Those heartbreaks, they shaped me, sure enough, taught me resilience. Ain't some fancy word from the history books. It's the quiet choice to rise come morning, even when your bones ache and your dreams are haunted. Take Daddy, for instance, missing in that foxhole over in Europe. His dog tags, the only whisper left. I could have let bitterness root deep like milkweed in the fields, but instead I chose to honor him by charming the good, the way he'd laugh over cornbread or whistle tunes while plowing. And Jimmy, oh my sweet boy, cut down in them Vietnam jungles before he could hold his own young uns. That loss carved a hollow that echoed for years, but filling it with memories of his fire, his marches for peace. It turned grief to purpose. I joined them Gold Star groups not to wallow, but to weave our pains into a tapestry, showing the young ones that loss don't have to define you. It can drive you to fight kinder, love fiercer. Secrets too, they weighed heavy once, that affair of Daddy's, the letters from that gal in Cedar Rapids, twisting the knife long after the war ended. But reflecting now, I see him as human, not monstrous. Love is messy as a mud road. After spring thaw, folks stumble, seek solace in wrong places. But forgiveness is the key that unlocks the cage, lets the light in. When I found them hidden notes in the attic years later, read in his regrets from the front lines, choosing us in the end, despite the wandering that washed me clean. No more shame, just understanding we all got thorns, but pruning them gentle helps the garden grow. And Hank's confession after Jimmy, that straying in the city lights, it echoed the same, but talking it out over coffee in the kitchen, we mended the frayed edges. Marriage ain't perfect, but it's the commitment to patching that makes it last through the storms. The USA themes, they weave through it all like threads in a flag. WWII with its victory gardens and ration books, teaching us to make do share fair pulling together when the world raged far off. Vietnam that tore the nation, split families with protests and drafts, but it sparked the fire for justice rights for all colors, creeds, showing America's heartbeat strongest in the fight for better. Then the recession, 70s oil lines, 80s plant closings, 2008 houses lost to banks, each one a gut check. But we bounced back community co-ops like the one I started baking pies to save the farm, federal helps like Social Security, keeping grannies like me afloat. It's the American way, honey. Innovate, endure, innovate again. From rosy riveters to tech booms, we turn trials to triumphs, not by magic, but by grit and grace. You can hear the close round 9,500 words, darling, a moment of pure, hopeful glow that still warms me through. Last summer, 2024, the family gathered big under that same old oak from the centennial, a reunion bigger than any before. Grandnieces, nephews, great-grandbabies sprawling on quilts, laughing over fried chicken, and my cherry cobbler updated with fresh berries from the market. The gal from Cedar Rapids, she was there arm in arm with her daughter. Sharon laughs about daddy's quirks, the good ones, like his fiddle playing at dances. We passed the letters round not as wounds, but wonders Jimmy's photos too, with stories of his college days dreaming big. One great-grandkid, a Spitfire of 8, tugged my sleeve, asked Granny, how'd you keep going through all that? I smiled, pulled her close, said sugar by Lennon on love, the kind that shares burdens, lifts spirits, and never quits. The sun set gold painting us all, and as fireflies blinked on, I felt them all there, Daddy, Jimmy, Hank, watching proud the circle complete. Gratitude floods me now for the simple gifts, the porch swing, creaking in the breeze, Mama's hymns humming in my head, Tommy's old rabbit's foot tucked in a drawer, still fuzzy with luck, friends, neighbors, kin, they're the real wealth richer than any boom-time bank account, and the lessons they pile up like harvest bounty hold family tight, no matter the miles or mistakes, forgive quick cause time slips, sly as a fox through the fence, speak your truths early, less secret sour like milk left out, teach the young ones history ain't just dates, it's the pulse of people bending, not breaking through civil wars, cold ones, hot ones, economic chills that forge the steel in our spines. Hope is the thread that ties it all. Hopeful that tomorrow's brighter, not cause troubles vanish, but cause we face them hand in hand. America's story, it's ours too, woven with immigrants, dreamers, workers, all chastened that better life. I've seen the changes, cars flying faster, phones shrinking the world, women led in boardrooms and battlefields, but the core stays true, community over chaos, kindness over kicking. If I could whisper to that little Emmy standing in the yard watching Daddy's truck fade, it'd say, darling, it's gonna hurt fierce, but you'll find your way. The pains polish you shiny as a silver dollar, ready to spend on loving big. So there you have it, honey, my tale from hook to heartache to this peaceful perch, a life full bumpy but blessed. If this story stirs something and yet tugged at your own family strings, do me a favor, hit that share button, pass it to your kin, your pals, anyone needing a reminder that resilience runs deep in us all. Everyone's got a yarn worth spinning, let's keep them echoing across the miles, building bridges over the blues. Thanks for listening, darling. May your days be warm as apple pie and your heart full as a summer sky. God bless, and keep on keeping on.